Hello, everyone. Yeah, better. I can see you. Yeah. All right. Yes, it's 7:30, and we are starting very soon. All right. Better. I can see you. Welcome, better. Yeah. If you can see me better, you can put on the comment section that you can see me. Yeah, we'll just give some minutes and we'll start. Yes. Oh, thank you, my A. I can see you, my A. Thank you very much. Thank you. I can see you. Thank you for coming. Yeah. Oh, that's awesome, Better. Thanks for confirming that you can hear me. Yes, I was skeptical about the audio before now, but okay, yeah. Okay, Temi, thank you for confirming that you can hear me. Hmm. Okay, we'll just give some time and we'll start. Oh, Maria, I can see you. Eunice, thank you for joining. Williams, thank you for joining me tonight. Yes, I'm so excited tonight. Today's Children's Day, and I'm a child. Every one of us were indeed coming from a parent, so we are all children. So today we're celebrating ourselves, we're celebrating even the children that we've given birth to. Even our mothers, they are children to someone else also. So this is me saying Happy Children's Day. And this event is just like giving back to this is particular set of people. I know everyone is important, but I hold them so dear to my heart because I happen to be a mother to my adorable desire, and I can't just love her less. Yes, this is just me trying to encourage people using this day of celebrating the children to actually talk to parents on how they can be able to come into purpose by accepting their child's or their children diagnosis. Yes, I'm so happy to see all my people tonight. So without wasting much time, I'll be inviting. Yeah, okay. So before we go further, let me first of all introduce myself for those that are meeting me for the first time. I am Catherine Irene. Yes, I am the founder of a Place of Hope Academy, and I am a parent to my adorable Desire. Desire is 15 years old and she has gotten cerebral palsy. But God has been helping her. She has been achieving milestones, and she made me to become the coach I am today. Yes, I don't see her as a burden, but I see her as someone that's becoming. Thank you very much. All right. I think I wanted us to, yeah, it's about 6 minutes from 7:30, and I don't want to keep us here waiting. I'll just have to bring the moderator to the stage right now. Yes. Temitope, I don't know if you are ready to come up the stage tonight. Are you ready? Yeah, yeah. Thank you very much, Temitope, for joining me tonight. I'm so excited. You are welcome to this event tonight, and I just want to introduce you to all those watching us tonight. This is the moderator of this event, and she'll be coordinating this section. And I just want to let you know that she is good at what she does. And at this juncture, I would like to leave the stage for her. I hope you can hear me.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
All right.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Temi.
Oh, great. I'm happy to be here. My name is Temitope Shosoya, and I am a public health coach. I talk about everything and anything public health, from nutrition to um, diseases, how we can live our lives in sound health, how you can regain your strength, your energy. If you're a mother, if you are a man, whatever phase of life that you are, I am just there to help you live a healthy life and make sure that you don't become uh, a part of the bad statistics that we are talking about. So that's me. I'm in public health field, and I collaborate with a lot of people, and that's why I'm here today to tell you about how to accept your child's diagnosis. I am also a mother of one of them, one of these children with additional need that we're talking about. And Coach Catherine has been doing an amazing job in transforming our minds and say, oh, you've got this. This journey is not only about your child, it's about you. In fact, the journey is mostly about you rather than about your child. So we are here to have a transformed mind, and our guest speaker is also ready. She's a doctor. When the time comes, I'm going to introduce her, but just want to introduce myself. My name is Temitope, and I'm in the public health field. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Temitope. I'm so excited. That's a wonderful one. And I believe that you'll be telling us what and what we'll be expecting tonight, giving us the rules, telling us some few things that we need to know before our speaker will come up. Yeah.
Exactly. Okay, so tonight we are talking about accepting your child's diagnosis. What does that even mean? What is a diagnosis? What does accepting your child diagnosis mean? During the week, I made a video about what it means, what it looks like to have a child with additional needs. It's like going to the market. You want to buy soup ingredient. Let's say our Igbo people, you want to cook maybe one of your local dishes, and you went to the market and say, "Oh, give me um, the ingredient for this." But the rule is you can't check the ingredient until you get back to your kitchen to cook. And you paid, you did everything in your power to make sure that, oh, you are buying the right ingredients. But by the time you got home, you saw that, oh my, I've been given different kinds of ingredients, and you can't return it. You have to work with it. What are you supposed to do? What will you do at that time? As a parent, this is what a Place of Hope Academy does. They transform your mind. They help you to use what you have to get what you want. Even, even though your child has been diagnosed with whatever it is, I'm not going to mention any name, from autism to there are some, and let's put it at the back of our mind that not even all needs, all additional needs are physical. Some are mental, some are neurological. So it's a spectrum is so wide, and I'm sure that our doctor is going to do, Dr. Omolola is going to do justice to that tonight. But while we wait, I want to assure you that you have come to the right place. This is a Place of Hope Academy, transforming your mind to parent your child with clarity. And that's why we have come tonight. So you're going to get clarity, you're going to get a lot of insight. You will be equipped with sufficient knowledge to run this race that God has graciously given unto you. If you don't see your child as a burden, if you don't see them as, oh, why am I wasting time? I can't live my life. I can't pursue my career. Because some of us too, we were like that, maybe 15, some years ago. So, but now our coach has been transforming our minds. And that's why we are here today, to transform your minds too, to accept your diagnosis for your child. And right now, I'm going to be bringing our guest speakers to the stage. But before I do that, I welcome everyone once again. The housekeeping rule is, if you have any question, please put it in the comment section. I'm going to be going through them. And if by the time we finish, by the time Dr. Molola is done with our presentation, we are going to have a section for question and answer. So do jot down your questions, anything that is bothering your mind, whatever you want to ask Dr. Molola, she's here to answer all those questions for you. Write down the questions, and then when it is time, we are going to you raise up your hands, and then we are going to be calling you to present your questions, and then Dr. Mulola is going to do justice to it. Now, let's welcome our guest speaker. Her name is Dr. Mulola Okeowo. She's a medical doctor, a global autism expert, and founder of Autism Renewed, where she empowers parents of children with additional or developmental challenges through coaching, practical strategies, and annual Autism Renewed conferences. She also partners with schools to create inclusive learning environments using her expertise in behavior, language development, and nutrition. As a self mastery coach, she coaches and mentors other authors, and she's an international speaker. Dr. Lola accepts individuals to transform their lives and transition into tech careers and live with purpose, joy, and fulfillment. So, with God's joy in my heart, I welcome Dr. Omolola Okeowo onto the stage to tell us what it means to accept our children's diagnosis. Dr. Omolola, you're welcome.
All right. Thank you very much, Temitope. That is a powerful introduction, and I want to say thank you very much. So, you just give us a minute, and Dr. Modula will be here. She just, all right.
While we are waiting for Dr. Omolola Okeowo to come to the stage to address us, I want to tell us who we have come to meet tonight. And she's no other person apart from Coach Catherine Irene. She's the convener of A Place of Hope Academy. She's a mother to children and one with additional needs. She's a parents coach. She empowers and supports and builds the confidence of families to thrive. She is a biomedical scientist. She has over 15 years of experience in parenting her daughter, Desire, intentionally. She is an Amazon ebook writer. She's a publisher. Please, anywhere you see her after this program, just give her a big wide hug for me. If you're not where she is, send her a hug for me. She is doing an amazing job in transforming minds. And I tell people if the battle can be won in the mind, the rest is history. The rest is
Hmm.
history. So thank you, Coach Catherine, for what you do. We appreciate you. Thank you so much. Dr.
Thank you
Molola,
very much. Yeah, Dr. Modula is right here. Yes.
thank you for coming. Thank you
Hmm.
for being here tonight. We appreciate you so much. I've heard a lot about her. In fact, all my friends now
Hello.
they're telling me, if you are not in the inner circle, we are going to drag you. We are going to drag you. I said my kids are grown. They said no, it doesn't matter. And she has confirmed it tonight that even grandparents are in the inner circle. So what's your excuse? So maybe I'll be seeing more of Dr. Molola in the nearest future. Thank you for coming and welcome with a big clap and big cheers.
Thank you.
Welcome
Hello, everyone.
Dr. Molola Okawo to the podium.
Thank you. Thank you. Hello, everyone. It's morning here in Australia, so good morning and afternoon and evening, whatever part of the world you are joining me. It's so good to be here. Such an honor, and I do appreciate the privilege and platform. Thank you, Coach Catherine, for this privilege to speak to your community. So, thanks, everyone. I can help you with my slides if you can help me, if that's okay. Okay, should I go on?
Yes, please. Go ahead,
Okay.
doctor.
Okay, so welcome once again, everyone. So today we're going to be talking, of course, the theme of this program is the transformed parent of a special needs child. And the topic today is accepting your child's diagnosis. So I'll just go right to it. A little bit about me. Of course, they've introduced me. I'm a trained medical doctor. Even though I don't practice by choice, I don't practice mainstream medicine by choice in Australia. Instead, I'm crystallizing my expertise and my experience in another form by working with parents of children with additional needs on how to navigate challenges and to thrive. Hence, my company Autism Renewed, and we do that through various services, online consultations, one-on-one programs, speaking engagements, books, and other services. Okay, so the aim of today's session is to help us reframe acceptance, not as giving up or settling, but as the courageous first step towards actively supporting, advocating for, and helping our children to thrive. So, a bit of outline, we'll look at an introduction, the misunderstood meaning of acceptance, we'll look at from denial to awareness, we talk about acceptance as a decision to act, we look at the journey to transformation, we examine some actionable steps, we talk about dangers of settling in the diagnosis, and then we conclude. So, as a way of introduction, the honest truth is that your journey to becoming a parent, most of us, of course, maybe you have, I mean, since you're a young girl, the way after you visualize your wedding, you probably visualize yourself as a mom. Some of us will say, I like a big family. I just want 6 children until you experience labor for the first time and you know that it's not a child's play. All the dream of having 6 children, you throw it in the bin that I think but some of us will still forget about it and end up having 4 children or 5 children and like, oh, how did I even get here? However, when our children end up having certain challenges that we were not expecting, I mean, it just kind of helps. Sometimes it throws you off course because it kind of like it looks like all the dreams, all the things that you have imagined in your mind, that reality is not coming to bear. Or you have pictured your 6 month old, how you're going to dress her hair up very nice and take pictures, and you find yourself having to be in and out of hospitals, and hence your child has having additional needs. Even sometimes the first few years of life, your child has jaundice, and sometimes you may not be able to even go home to have naming ceremony. You have naming ceremony in the hospital. Sometimes your child is in and out of the theater. Medications here, emergency here, and things like that. So this journey may not be the journey that you expected, but it can still be beautiful. A diagnosis often feels like the death of all the dreams you had for your child or even for yourself. But it's not the death of their potential. It's just the dreams that probably you had or how you thought the journey was going to go. That's what has changed. So, what do we do when we land somewhere that we did not expect? So, this brings me to the concept of how do we define acceptance? I may share some perspectives today that may not be popular perspectives, but I mean, I'm going to share from the wealth of perspective that I have and some personally, I feel that the revelation God has given me in terms of some of this concept. So, what's the misunderstood meaning of acceptance? Different people have their definition of what acceptance is. But let's talk about what acceptance is not. Acceptance is not giving up, it's gearing up. For many, the word acceptance feels like surrender. That means, okay, I just accept. Oh, that's how God has made my child. Oh, that is how the universe, as some people call it, what will be will be. Some people will say that is fate, fate, destiny. And people have different things that they call it when their child is going through one challenge or the other and now has a diagnosis. So in some cases, a child will not even have a diagnosis, but you can tell that your child is struggling. So some people would say, okay, accepting it. And some people often I see they will now wear an identity with that diagnosis. But true acceptance is not passive, it's proactive. Acceptance is not passive. It's not, I just enter a state of, okay, I've accepted it, I surrender, and I'm giving up, and it is what it is, and just coasting along. No, it's actually active. Acceptance doesn't mean resignation, doesn't mean you now resign. I've resigned to fate, as some people call it, FATE now. It means understanding that something is what it is. Okay, no, I love this quote. It says that acceptance doesn't mean resignation. It means something, it means that something is what it is, and there's got to be a way through it. So it means that, okay, this is what is happening on ground, but there has to be a way through what is on my plate or what I'm going through. Before acceptance, most parents, of course, go through different phases. Number one, denial. And I'll talk about from denial to awareness, because you don't just get to a stage of acceptance. There are several steps before acceptance, before true acceptance can come in. Acceptance empowers you to respond and not just to react. Sometimes parents live in denial longer than they need to, not because they don't love their child, but because honestly, the truth hurts sometimes. Watching your child struggle, watching your child go through challenges, sometimes that you don't even have an answer, sometimes that even the medical professionals or the experts don't even have an answer. It can really be discouraging. It can really hurt a parent because it looks like all their dreams for their child is gone. They're helpless, and it feels like all hope is lost. But before acceptance, okay, I've already said before acceptance, most people go through denial. What can denial look like? Denial can look like, ignoring the symptoms, ignoring the signs, ignoring the fact that your child is not meeting their milestones, ignoring the fact that your child is 6 months, they still don't have neck control. So you're just acting like, some people pretend like they're in faith. I'll get to that later. But most of the time, they are not. They are just in denial because they're afraid of the truth. Denial can come with blaming others. Oh, it's the teachers. Oh, your child is not reading or struggling with writing. You say the teachers are not teaching the child well. Or the school is a bad school. Or other things like that. Avoiding assessments or refusing referrals. So you go for your child health check and they say, okay, I don't think the child is meeting certain milestones. Let's refer the child for a thorough assessment. Most of the time, the parent is in denial because they're afraid of what will come out of it and they don't know how they're going to handle it. Also, denial can mean just hoping that the child will grow out of it. Sometimes that sounds like faith. Faith, but most times it's not. We'll get to it. What does awareness give you? I'm talking about awareness because before true acceptance can take place, awareness has to take place. Awareness means knowledge about what is really going on with your child. Like you are aware that by this age, the child should have reached this milestone. Of course, sometimes we know children develop differently. There can be a few differences here and there. But there are sometimes that it's very clear that this child has a significant delay or there's something going on and that needs to be investigated. So awareness will give you the knowledge of what's really going on with your child. You can identify, you can name the symptoms, you can name what exactly is going on. It also gives you the language to explain what is happening. It empowers you because when you understand what's happening, you can explain it effectively. It also gives you access to the right interventions and therapy. So sometimes I encourage parents that going for an assessment and getting a diagnosis, because in most parts of the world, insurance companies will not fund any intervention without a diagnosis. Even though sometimes the diagnosis may not match what the child is going through. Maybe they say the child is having severe something, maybe the child has mild. But most times to get access to the interventions that the child needs, insurance companies will actually request for a diagnosis. So a diagnosis can give access to interventions and therapy, and that begins, of course, with awareness. When you are aware, you're able to access the right intervention. Of course, a diagnosis also gives you awareness also gives you a roadmap to what to do next, because you need a roadmap. What's the next step? And without awareness, staying in denial, there's no clarity, and that means you're not moving. No, you're not taking any step. You're just fixed, and you cannot get any change or transformation without taking any step. So the roadmap, because the truth is that it's a journey, and that journey has to have a roadmap. If you're traveling somewhere by road, it's a journey from Lagos to Abuja. So you need a map, to guide you on that journey so that you can get to the destination, or you can get to the different landmarks or bus stops that will lead to the final destination. So without awareness, there cannot be true acceptance, because awareness is what leads us to empowered acceptance. So now let's talk about acceptance as a decision to act. I said that acceptance is not passive. It's not an emotion. It's a decision. It's a powerful, transforming decision. Acceptance is saying, yes, this is where we are now. Now, what can we do? How do we support this child? Acceptance doesn't mean you're accepting defeat. You are accepting the challenge to rise and to support your child, to help them navigate through and to help them to thrive. The diagnosis becomes a starting point for targeted help. So the concept of accepting diagnosis means that is like a starting point of a journey. It's not just an emotion. It's not just a state. It's not accepting defeat. No, it's a decision to take that roadmap and to begin the journey to help your child to navigate. My father in the Lord, Reverend Olushola Areogun of Dream Center International Church, he would always tell us, a diagnosis is not the enemy of your faith. It is the target of for your faith. Most times when people say they are in faith, they're actually not in faith, they're actually in fear. Because how can you even have faith for something that you don't even know? You are not even sure what's going on. Faith needs to have a target. So if you say you're praying or you say you're standing in faith, what are you standing in faith for? So if you cannot name it, then that means that your faith does not have a target. So my father-in-law would always tell people, even in church, when you have a symptom, we say go to the doctor. Let the doctor check you out. When the doctor gives you a diagnosis, he has given you something that you can target your faith at. You can direct your faith at. So that diagnosis is not an enemy. You hear people say, my enemy has a headache. My enemy has a headache. It doesn't mean anything. That is just fear. You're disconnecting. It's a different thing if you say, I'm standing in faith against this headache. Two different conversations. Because faith is not denial. Faith is applying truth to the situation or the circumstance. Because truth remains the standard. The fact or reality is what's going on. But truth is eternal. Because truth is God's position or what God has said on that thing. So when you are saying that I'm standing in faith, number one, you cannot stand in faith without even knowing what you're dealing with. So if you're saying you're praying, what is the target? Faith should have a target. And the diagnosis helps to give you a target for your faith. Helps you to give you something. So if you're even telling somebody, stand with us in prayer, people say we are with you in prayer. They are with you in prayers for what? Against what? Towards what? There's nothing specific. Okay. Also, when you are able to name symptoms, you can name symptoms and you can target your faith to what you're believing. You remember in the Bible, me, I'm a Christian, so I will always use the examples from the scriptures. When blind Bartimaeus, he said, and Jesus was passing, he said, "Thou son of David, have mercy on me." And Jesus turned to him, "What will you that I do for you?" He was specific, and he didn't beat about the bush. That I received my sight. So his inability to see was the symptom, or you should say blindness was the target of his faith. It was targeting his faith towards the blindness. So when he came before him, sometimes I picture and I experience that. If you happen to come before Jesus today or before God today, do you have specifically, can you be specific and say, this is what I want? The woman with the issue of blood, she kept saying to herself, that I may touch the hem of his garment and I know I'll be made whole. She was specific. There was no assumption. Her faith had a target. Do you understand? However, I'm not negating science. We'll get to some of those conversations later. So what does that journey look like? Let's walk through let's talk about the transformation process. So the journey to transformation, remember I said journey, it's a journey. What acceptance really looks like. Acceptance leads to clarity. We've talked about awareness. When you are aware, you have knowledge, you are empowered, you can have something to target your faith towards. Then it can lead to acceptance and commenting on that journey. Acceptance leads to clarity and leads to action because you're clear on what you're trying to deal with. You are not beating about the bush. There's no assumption. So let's talk about some actionable steps on the journey to transformation. The first thing I said is seek knowledge. Don't parent in the dark. Don't assume in the dark. Get knowledge. Get informed. Learn about your child's specific diagnosis. Or sometimes, it's not all the time that, some children would have diagnosis because by the time they do the assessment, they may not fit into a status quo. So they may be challenged. They may say, okay, there's nothing wrong with the child, but yet the child is struggling. So in the case that you don't have a specific diagnosis, you have symptoms, you have the specific delay, the specific challenge that the child has. And of course, we have children who have conditions that they don't need, medically, there's no name for it. But of course, there are areas of challenges. So you can learn about those things. Then ask professionals. I said read books, but remember I put caution here. And why I put caution there, because sometimes parents can get so overwhelmed and so desperate that they can read any and everything. If you go online, there's so many resources because the online space, anybody can put anything online. So the fact that you're getting an information online doesn't necessarily mean that it's right, doesn't necessarily mean that it has been tried and tested and trusted. So how I put caution. Different people can share. I drank horse urine and this happened. I drank snake oil. And people, parents, of course, would go to any length to watch their children thrive. As parents, we do almost anything, especially women, mothers. You almost do anything because you want the best for your child, but you have to exercise caution in asking professionals, in checking, even when you find information, always check. Of course, I know that when it comes to the professional world, we do all professionals, we don't always agree on the same thing, and I must be honest with you. Because sometimes, even as professionals, our knowledge would vary. As a professional, you can only help your clients to the best of the knowledge that you have. And one thing is that science is progressive, but unfortunately, it's not all professionals that are updating themselves or up to date with the new inventions that we have. Look at the concept of neuroplasticity now. You will see here, because we were taught, of course, back then in medicine, they would say once neuronal cells are damaged or they are dead, they cannot be renewed, or they cannot neuronal cells do not regenerate. But of course, science, like I said, is progressive, and there are now new studies and evidence to show that that's not true. But there are still professionals that are teaching that, or that are still saying that. Also, if you remember, years ago there was no HIV AIDS came in 1984. So that means that if you trained as a professional years before that, if you don't update yourself, you will see someone who has HIV/AIDS, you would not know. You wouldn't know how to manage it. Even the same thing with COVID. When I went to school, there was no COVID. COVID was 2020. Of course, I have graduated several years before that. So now understanding symptoms of COVID and all those things. Now you see people who have COVID, you almost think maybe they have malaria or something, or they just have a flu, but it's COVID. So science is progressive. Even when it comes to additional needs, developmental challenges, there were some developmental challenges that seemingly irreversible, nothing can be done about it. But there are several people who have overcome those challenges. There are people who have lost their diagnosis. So it's not the concept of the argument that there's always a lot of argument. Is it cure? There's no cure. Can you heal? You can't heal. That's how they are. It's permanent. There's a lot of argument. I don't like to get into all the argument. I'm not really interested in the argument. I'm interested in transformation. So I tell people, how did a child have a diagnosis in the first place? Diagnosis is symptom based. Okay, the child has this symptom, that symptom, that symptom, up to this severity. It matches that diagnosis. So I asked the question, okay, what if those symptoms go away? What happens to the diagnosis? A child who was pre-verbal, a child struggled to read, couldn't walk. Now the child is working, the child is fully conversational, the child is learning. So does the diagnosis remain or not? I tell people, I leave the answer to you. I'm not really interested in the arguments, because I realize that the arguments do not profit us. It doesn't lead to transformation. It's very distracting. So why not let's focus on things that actually lead to transformation? So the argument of cure or no cure, people that are neurodivergent, even when it comes to the neurodivergent conversation, I feel there's a balance to it. There are some extremes, and I feel that there's a very thin line between settling when it comes to those conversations and actually really saying that, okay, there are people who, in terms of neurodivergent, I know the concept says that with the way we learn differently, we think differently, we see things differently. That's the concept. But I feel that there's a lot that has come into the conversation, that if a parent says that, okay, the child is struggling with this, and of course, they would like to see the child overcome that. The child can't read. They would like to see the child read. The child is not conversational. They would like to see the child conversational. You will see people who are going to come with the whole neurodivergent thing. Oh, that's how they are made. You're trying to change how God formed them. And things like that. And for me, I feel that some of those conversations are really not empowering. I feel that they're very distracting. So we end up arguing back and forth. Let's focus on transformation. There's nothing bad in a parent wanting their child empowered, not wanting to see their child struggle. Someone has a 10-year-old who is not potty trained. Someone has a 10-year-old, 15-year-old that has behavioral issues, head banging, harming people. So that person saying that I want my child to be well, to do away with this thing, someone now coming to say you're trying to change who they are. Come on. And we have this community of neurodivergent adults and say they are neurodivergent, but you saying you're neurodivergent, you have ADHD, you have autism, but yet you went to uni, you have masters, you have PhD. You can't be saying it's the same thing with a parent struggling with a 15-year-old that is not potty trained, that is having behavior issues, that has not slept. And I had a parent who had a teenage child, and the child, she was telling me, I mean, for over maybe 10 years or 9 years, she cannot say that her child has slept through the night. I mean, so for that parent wanting that child to be able to do away with some of those challenges, do you say that that is changing who God has made the child to be? So does God want a child to have behavior issues and headbang and be 15 and be in diapers? I mean, let's think about it. But does that mean that we have answers to all the questions? We don't have, as I may not have answers to all the questions, but at the same time, you also, nobody else can say that there cannot be a solution to something. I also say science is even progressive. There are medical conditions that we didn't even have answers to years ago. They didn't even have a cure, a treatment. Today they have. For some of us that may not know, the popular scurvy, vitamin C deficiency, how scurvy came to be. If you go and check history of I think sailors or people that were traveling by maybe by ship or something, so they had nutritional deficiency because they were not consuming enough vitamins, and the people were dying. They didn't even know what vitamin C deficiency. I don't know, maybe somebody did a study or how they came to know it was vitamin C deficient. So look at the popular vitamin C deficient, and now you can just take vitamin C, either you take in fruits or you can get in the tablets or powder or something, and I mean, the deficiency is gone. So that's to tell you that science is progressive and nobody is God, really. I always tell people, I will tell you my limitations as a professional, what I know, what I've seen. But at the end of the day, I don't believe in never. I've seen a 20-year-old, 22-year-old talk for the first time, been in therapy for 20 years. I've seen someone who didn't speak until 11. He didn't read or write until he was 18. Today he's in his 30s. He's a professor in Cambridge. He's the youngest professor in Cambridge. What's his name? Jason Addy. I mean, so if at 10 he wasn't speaking, if at 15 he wasn't reading, could you as a professional say he would never? Do you understand? So seeking knowledge, letting your faith have a target is to, and having acceptance, to me, is getting knowledge to give direction to the journey that you're commencing on, to help your child navigate and to thrive. Of course, I wrote bring God on the scene. The truth is that God wants your child well. And I like the analogy my father-in-law will always say. It is not faith or. And that's where sometimes we have to say,
All right, I'll bring Dr. Molola back. I think the network, can you hear me? I think the network threw her out. Just give us a minute. I'll bring her back. She's trying, yeah, she's back on stage. Yeah.
sorry, I don't know what happened.
Don't worry, devil is a liar tonight. Physics fine and Molola.
Okay,
Yeah,
can we hear me?
yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, so it's okay. Help me with my slides. Okay, I'm presenting from my end. Okay, I'll just keep talking while I bring up my slide. So it's not faith. Coach Captain, help me with my slides, ma, please. So it's not faith
Okay.
or. So that's why we have extremes. Some people just okay. I'm standing in faith, like I said before. What's the target of your faith? It's faith and, because God is not against science, but of course science has its limitations. But God doesn't have any limitation. If you even look at geography those days, they used to, history or geography, they when they taught us geography, that there were arguments before that maybe the earth was square or something like that. Or who is that person again? I can't remember his name. That they said travel around the four corners, try to travel. They now discover that the earth is now circle. But if you check the Bible, the Bible has said these things. God sits upon the circles of the earth. So science is the one that is catching up. God does not need to catch up with anybody. So it's not faith or, it's faith and. So and of course, even as a parent, parenting is spiritual. How much, whether your child has a challenge or not, a child has given you as a destiny to shepherd. How can you shepherd that destiny without the person that created? So if your child is having any challenge now, I mean, bringing the person that created and gave you that child on the scene, I don't think is wrong. But remember, it's not faith or. It's faith and. And I talked about targeted faith. That's what I'm saying. Not all this, I'm standing in faith. Sometimes some people are saying, for example, you tell my pastor now that, okay, I'm standing in faith for something. He's going to ask you, okay, what scriptures are you standing on? Because if you don't have any scripture, then your faith doesn't have any target. It's just wishful thinking in your head. It's just quotable quotes. And I wrote here that faith is hear, talk, and do. I said targeted faith. And I wanted to share something before we go on this concept of targeted faith. And that would apply to your child having additional needs, or even if your child doesn't have additional needs. How do you make your faith targeted? I talked about before, get knowledge on what your child is dealing with, all the different areas. Beyond you can have the diagnosis, or beyond the diagnosis, list out all the symptoms. If it's maybe challenge with reading, challenge with mobility, not walking, challenge with sleeping, having seizures, or whatever, even if they attend to list, not potty trained, behavioral issues, anything, list them out. Okay, so because when your faith is targeted, so you list them out, because it's just like blind Bartimaeus. If you meet Jesus, they say, what would you have me do for you? Are you just going to be rumbling? The same way, every time you take your child's matter to God, you are specific. You are picturing like you are before him, and he can hear you, and you are specific about the needs. So we're talking about prayer. I mean, my pastor will say prayer is open book exam. Write it down. Then if you're standing in faith, you must have scriptures for each things you're believing. Of course, by the stripes of Jesus we are healed. There are a lot of general scriptures. A lot will supply all my needs according to his riches in glory. They are good, but there are some scriptures that are specific to symptoms. If you're talking about speech delay or things like that, there are a lot of scriptures there. If you're talking about mobility, walking, there are scriptures that are there. If you're talking about understanding, learning, there are scriptures. So we're talking about targeted faith. So have outline the concerns or the things or the areas of where you want improvement, or that the child can do better, or the challenges that they can overcome. List them out. Have scriptures. Somebody will say, is this part of accepting a diagnosis? It is. Because remember, I said acceptance is a journey. Acceptance is not settling. Now the child now has a diagnosis. They said this, now what? Part of the journey. Even if you want to pray towards targeted therapy, God can guide professionals. I've seen clients who they changed the school of the child. Then they had a better professional that could work with the child. Sometimes you see people go to the hospital, you have symptoms, you've gone to one doctor, they say there's nothing wrong with you, you go to another one, nothing wrong with you, and you go to a third one, and he just thinks about something, just ask you a question, and that just changes the tide of everything, and just uncovers what is going on. The same thing when you're doing therapy with your child. It's not all therapists that will be the right therapist for your child. It's not every school that is the right school for your child. It's not every environment. So like I said, taking along God, who is the creator of the child, who gave the child to you in the first place, it's not out of place. So targeted faith means that there are specific things in the life of your child or in the journey of your child that you are working towards. Because when you take a child to therapy too, you are working towards something now. Therapy is not in vain. You're not just going to speech therapy every day. You're not just going to physiotherapy every day. You're going to physiotherapy, to help with the child's mobility. If they have club foot, if they have whatever, to help them to be able to walk. That's why you're there. Do you understand? So that's part of your having targeted faith. When you're going, you're praying. God guide them, help them. So God is not against science. It's not faith or. It's faith and. But doing that is not aloof. Because a lot of people pray their faith is not, there's no target to their faith. Their prayers are not targeted. So your actionable steps, you have targeted prayer. Your faith has a target. And I said, faith is hear, talk, and do. Hear, talk, and do. You can't be saying something or praying something and saying something else. I was having a conversation with Mrs. Carter. It was earlier today. She had said something, and I was telling her that you use this word. Check it, something like that. She was like, that's true. So you have to be very conscious of it. It's just like you hear parents say, tell their children, my God is a big God. Our God is a big God. You're telling your children, our God is a big God. He can supply and he can do all things he created. And your child now comes one day with one request. Mommy, I want to go to Disneyland, or I want this big something. You now shout, hey, where do you want me to get money? You want, the child is looking at you, but the child is thinking, but you said, I mean, like God can supply. So can't you see that you're contradicting yourself? You said you have a big God who can supply everything, who created you, can do everything. And your child asks something that is so big beyond you. And you are shouting, hey, you want to kill me? Where do you want me to get money? You're contradicting yourself. You can answer the child. Doesn't mean you have to meet that need, but there's a way you can answer the child. One of the ways you can even build the faith of your child is tell the child to go and pray about it, because you have introduced the child to the big God. Maybe say presently within our budget, we can't fit that into our budget now because we have so and so priorities. But you can pray about it and see God can send us help, and God can make a way for us. That is a better answer than telling a child, you want to kill me. Oh, hey, what can I mean, where will I get the money from? That's contradicting the same thing. You can't be saying my child is a gift from God. And no diagnosis can limit them. They're going to be the head, they're going to be whatever. But the language that you use, even when you are talking casually, that's why sometimes even using the concept of, they have additional needs, they're special or whatever, you have to be very, very conscious of those things sometimes, because sometimes those things look like you're trying to speak positive, but sometimes how do I put it? It's a settling, or it's an isolated there's a discrimination in saying those things sometimes. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. So you have to be very conscious, because your faith has to align with what you're saying, with your actions, with the things you even listen to and you feed yourself with. Of course, also when you are talking to professionals, of course, I'm not saying you should go to your doctor and say, what's wrong with your child? He say, my child is head and not detail. Your doctor, he may not be a person of faith. Your children's teachers are not standing in faith with you, or things like that. But there are ways that you can be very conscious that you are not, how do I put it? You're not canceling your faith. You're not saying one thing and yet you are doing another thing. Then I wrote, create a flexible action plan. Acceptance is not just waiting for help. It's about acting intentionally. So you design the right home environment, therapy schedule, different communication methods. That's an example. If your child is struggling with communication. So being intentional, not just sit down and say, the child will get it. No, you meet them at their level, but you don't leave them at their level. So acceptance means that you accept that, yes, they may have certain challenges. So I will meet them at their level. I will understand how they learn. I will understand how I can communicate these things to them. I was at a summit last month. I was invited to a platform, and we're talking about inclusion. So part of acceptance is inclusion. What is inclusion? Most people don't get the concept of inclusion correctly, especially most schools or settings. In most places, inclusion is just accommodating a child. But true inclusion is giving equal opportunities. So a child may not be able to write, but when you're teaching, you're going to teach in the way the child understands. You're going to communicate to the child's level, but you're giving the child the same opportunity. If your other children are writing something or doing an exam in a way and they're able to write, can the other child draw? Can they paint? So that is true inclusion. So that's talking about create a flexible action plan. Accepting that diagnosis means that you are aware of their limitations, of their challenges. So you are creating a structure, you are creating a system, you are creating plans, you are creating schedules that accommodate their limitation, but not leaving them there, helping them to navigate and walk their own journey. So others may take 10 steps. They may take one step at a time. Others may be taking 10 steps. They are still moving. It's just at a different pace. Okay, so I said, why is the Mrs. Catherine? Why is Coach Catherine? Why is this thing? The way the pictures are. Okay, I think is the what do you call it?
Yes, that's it.
The theme that you
Let
picked.
me see if I
The
can.
other one,
Uh,
yeah. So be realistic, but be proactive.
okay,
Okay,
I think it's
review your
um,
goals regularly. Then use small wins to build momentum. Okay, remember it's a journey. They don't have to take 10 steps. Other may take 10 steps at a time. They may be taking one step at a time. Okay. So create flexible, actionable plan. That's part of accepting the diagnosis, because you are conscious of their challenges, their strength, their weakness, and always move from strength to weakness, not weakness to strength. Every child, every individual has a strength, has something positive about them. So don't emphasize on the weakness. Of course, the structure, the schedule, the therapy, whatever you are doing is helping to deal with the weakness, but strive to find their uniqueness. Some children may not be able to even communicate, verbally, but they can draw, they have other interests. I'm sure you've seen Tude Onokoya, the chess world record champion, recently posted a boy that he brought from Makoko, and the boy has cerebral palsy. I'm not sure it's really verbal, but he introduced the boy to chess. The boy today is in America, sitting and teaching chess champions. And this is a boy that everyone was laughing at in Makoko. You know that Makoko, that village in Lagos. The boy has cerebral palsy. So that's a strength. Someone came and dug out that strength. So I sometimes tell my clients that a child is not is I don't like to use non-verbal. I say pre-verbal, because you can't say none. Because seeing children, become fully conversational at 15, at 20. So I like to say pre-verbal. Every child is on their own journey to communication. So that was a boy that everyone thought nothing good could come out of him. But it took someone to see a potential and give opportunity. Sometimes I see what happens is that parents don't give opportunity because you assume. So I have clients who come to me, okay, the child is not talking yet. I say, okay, what kind of skills are you introducing the child to? Are you teaching the child how to cook? Depending, of course, the child's ability now. The child doesn't have any ability that is refraining them from learning how to cook. But they're like, I don't know if she can. But I'm like, have you given opportunity? What skills are you introducing them to? Have you introduced them to musical instruments? Have you introduced them to playing chess? Of course, it may take longer to teach them. You may need more patience. You may need more strategy. Okay? But give them opportunity. That's what inclusion is. Inclusion means you give equal opportunity, but you customize the ability of the child or the individual. You bear in mind their strength, you bear in mind their uniqueness, their unique way of learning, and use different strategies to help them to learn those same things. So that boy today from Makoko with cerebral palsy, he's in the US. Of course, I don't think he relocated, but he went for championship. He's winning championships, sitting with chess champions of the world today. Within how many months did he even learn the chess? See what we're talking about? About, creating, seeing opportunities, giving the equal opportunities, and customizing learning to the ability. Be an advocate. So don't accept less because of fear of confrontation. Being an advocate for your child, you know your child most. Every place you introduce your child to, whether it's school, whether it's church environment, whether it's even music lessons or extracurricular, you need to advocate for your child. When you get there, you introduce your child, and you help your child to settle into those systems. Part of being an advocate is partnering effectively with the right professionals, health professionals, educators. So advocacy is love in action. It's not just I love my child, no, but I step out of my comfort zone to be a voice for my child, to advocate for opportunities for my child. And part of being an advocate, I tell parents that you have to be ready also to volunteer, because sometimes you want to introduce your child to a sport, for example. It's not all the time that it's easy to get professionals who are that patient. So can you volunteer to be like a chaperone or be there to be able to prompt your child? Can you that sometimes as a parent, as a part of being an advocate, is you learning some of those things. You want to teach your child to swim. Sometimes you have to learn how to swim so that you can learn how to teach your child those things. So part of being an advocate is becoming. I love the concept of parenting advantage. Parenting advantage means that who do I need to become to be an advantage to my child? So if you have a child with additional needs, you have to become certain things to be able to help your child. Sometimes you have to be the one to learn how to teach your child to read, because you most likely may have the more patience, or you spend more time with the child, or even if a professional is going to work with your child, you are an advocate, you are a voice, so you go to the professional to advocate for your child, to teach them how to teach your child, to teach them how to help your child. You partner with, so that's part of effective partnership. Effective partnership means that I partner with them to teach them how to help my child, and we work together. Okay, so that's part of being advocating for your child. So advocacy is not just fighting for things, fighting for rights per se. For me, I believe advocacy is more like partnering for the interest of the child, because everything is to the interest of the child. Everything should be what is going to profit the child at the end of the day. Build right support systems. To me, part of your support system are your therapists. And I always tell people, no matter how good a professional is, if they're not going to partner with you effectively, if they're not going to align with your values and what you believe about your child, I don't think they're the right professionals. They may be good professionals. A good professional may not be the right professional for your child. A good school may not be the right school. So because you cannot be building and somebody is destroying. Part of building is even with words. You cannot have this positive mindset about your child, the positive thing that you say, and you have a professional who is talking down your child. It does not work together. Your the professionals are part of your support system. You are part of you are a team, and you must all work together. They may not, I'm not necessarily saying that, oh, maybe they're people of faith and they're not quoting scriptures like you, they know, but they are aligning with what you see about your child, what you believe for, what you're working towards. Because a professional that believes a child can do something, or a child will achieve something or achieve more, the patience, the effort, the spirit with which they would interact with that child will be different from a professional that are just trying, just try our best. They just do, you know, the barest minimum. I feel like, okay, nothing can be done. A professional that is in interest of the child will even give you ideas, will suggest resources, will expose you to things, will go the extra mile. Some of them, you see some of them even go the extra mile to take courses just to be able to help a child. Okay, so you find professionals that can partner with you effectively. Okay, so of course, online communities like this as well, where you have other parents, other people, and all that. And of course, the support system, I always tell people, may not necessarily be family and friends initially. You know, when they say it takes a village to raise a child, your village is not necessarily your immediate family and friends. Your village are people that align with your values and what you're believing for, as far as I'm concerned. So that would include the professionals, that would include people who have common, mindset, who are there to support your values, who are so there to keep your hope alive. You know, there are some people that when you talk to them, your spirit goes up. But there are some people that after you have spoken to them, your spirit just comes down like that. Sometimes the immediate family members, they can be the worst. After talking to them on phone, you just feel so low. You just feel like, it's just filled with negative mindset. Those kind of people, just avoid them at all costs. If they are family members, keep the relationship or the conversation to the barest minimum. So the support system are people that even when you're feeling down, people that are looking out for you, when you're tempted and you get carried away to say some things, they jolt you back on track. And that's why communities like this are very good, because you have people who have the same, values, common interests, and belief for the best about perspective about their children. Number 6, I said celebrate every win. Progress may be slow, but it's still progress. So progress over results. So, and also I wrote document your journey and your wins. You can document in a journal. You can document with videos and pictures, because you know what? There's some things that your children are struggling with now. In 2 years' time, it's going to be a story of the past. And sometimes you'll be wondering, why was I worried so much that I didn't even enjoy the journey? I didn't enjoy the process. Sometimes when, even as adults, if you think about yourself maybe 10 years ago, you think you have a picture of how you looked. But sometimes when you see a picture, you'll be like, oh, so this is how I used to look. Oh, this is how my room used to look in school. It's like you forget so much. Or just have your family album, check your wedding pictures or things like that. And you're looking at it, I'm like, oh my God, so this is how this was. So document your journey. That even your children, when they overcome certain challenges, they themselves can look back. And when you tell them that indeed you've been on a journey, indeed God is good, they themselves can see. They can see that's part of your victories and your testimony. Indeed, God is good. And also, you want to encourage another parent, because sometimes you meet some parents that are where you were. Sometimes when you're trying to describe, they may not believe you. But part of your documentation, part of your things to document, are things that you can use to encourage someone. Or that sometimes that when you are getting discouraged at the level that you are currently, you can go back and read some things that happened. You can check some prayer points or some things that you believe and be like, I thought this would never happen, but look at where we are. It boosts your faith to know that, okay, if that can happen, this phase that I am again, it's a journey we'll definitely overcome. Then teach your child and yourself that growth matters more than perfection. That's talking about focusing on the process, focusing on progress, not just results. So if your child, for example, is not walking, child doesn't have neck control, cannot sit, cannot stand. If a child achieves neck control, a child begins to sit up. That's progress. Celebrate those little wins. Those wins are a proof that the rest that you are believing God for, they are going to come to pass. It's just a matter of time. I always say something. Now, who give up, now you lose. So, patience and consistency, it would add up. It may take time, but it will definitely come to pass. Then keep hope alive. I said, be mindful of what you feed yourself with. Be mindful of what and who you are beholding. Be mindful of the stories and the testimonies you feed yourself with. And that's the truth. Yes, some testimonies look humbling and things like that. But anybody that doesn't have the testimony that you're looking for, you don't have any. I think you should limit how much you're feeding yourselves, feeding yourself with those materials, even though they look like testimony. But is that a testimony that you want to have? Look for testimonies of people that have the results that you're looking for. The testimonies about their children, that children that you have, children that have gone through what your child is going through and have good testimonies. Behold them. Even on YouTube, you can see wonderful testimony. Instead, some people can see that be criticizing, they're lying, it's not possible. Don't feed yourself. I always tell myself that, yeah, I know people can exaggerate, people may be lying, but can God make this happen really? Either it makes it happen through science, either it makes it happen. Sometimes the sovereignty of God, it just happens, you don't know, through therapy or whatever. But can it happen? So behold and be mindful of what you feed yourself with. If somebody's maybe their own children went through what your child is going through and it didn't turn out well, even if they write a book, I don't think you have any business reading that book. Doesn't mean that the book is a bad book, but I don't think it's the right book for you. I give you an example. Someone is having a marital challenge now. I'm believing God, okay, God will help me fix the marital challenge I have. Why are you now listening to somebody whose marriage didn't work out? I'm not judging that person. Even if that person is now a coach, she's now a successful divorcee or whatever. That's not the testimony you're looking for. That person can be a coach to other people that maybe they're already divorced and they're trying to get their lives together. But if that's not the testimony you are looking for, appreciate and respect them of afar. Don't spend time consuming their content. Look for people who are navigating what you are navigating and they have victories. They have testimonies, positive testimonies that you are beholding for. Because testimonies can be replicated. So if you are bringing testimony before God, you're saying God for one is God for all. If God can do this, then God can do mine. So if someone is not having the testimony that you are believing for, you don't have any business beholding. Because what happens unconsciously, remember I was talking about faith is not just when I just have faith, I just pray. No, it's a lifestyle. It's active. Faith is not passive. What you're hearing, what you're talking, what you're doing must align with what you are really believing for. So it's very, very important to keep hope alive. Consume content. Behold things that are what you are also believing God for. Okay? Yes, testimonies can be replicated. Dangers of settling. A diagnosis is not destiny. So settling happens when you stop seeing possibilities. Settling is when you use the diagnosis as an excuse not to push. When you accept poor treatment, somebody is just doing the barest minimum for your child and you accept it. When you speak limitations over your child's future because of the overwhelm of what you cannot see, even when you cannot see it. If you don't know what to say, just keep quiet. You don't, because your words we speak as spirit and life. So if you don't know what to say, and this takes training, I especially thought, sometimes you're sitting down, you just have this thought, this fear. What happens when my child is 30? What if this happens? You know how those things, how the devil messes up with your thoughts. Just like you write an exam, that thought just come, oh my God, what if you fail? This will happen, all those things. Learn one thing, you don't counter thoughts with thoughts. You counter thoughts with words. And you have to be intentional. Sometimes you have to have the answer before the test even comes. So that's why I said the words that you say, all those things, you are intentional about them. So as those thoughts come, as those fear come, don't counter it in your thoughts. Counter it in your words. So for example, you just sit down and just imagine, what if your child is 30 and so bad thing happen? You have that thought. If that thought comes, you speak to that thought. You say, you spirit of fear that this and this will happen, when be specific. Don't say every fear, everything like that. Remember, faith has a target. When you pray, your prayer has a target. When you speak, it has a target. So you address that thing. And what do? you come against that thing and you speak the right thing. No, this would not happen. This is what will happen. Something like that. So it takes conscious training because the devil can mess with your thoughts. And those thoughts, you will think them so much and they will become reality. So the same effort you can use to think those things, the same effort you can use to create what you want to see. So sit down and imagine those positive things. Imagine it. Imagine your child's wedding day. Imagine that. The same thought that isn't to sit and say, what my child will marry. That same time is the same effort. It's the same effort. Create the picture in your mind of her wedding day, a beautiful gown. When she has a baby, you go and do mungo. Sit down and dream and create the future. Haven't you noticed that sometimes you think about something before you know it, that thing happened? Haven't you noticed? Sometimes. The same way sometimes you can imagine something so negative that before you know it, it now looks like, no. So use that same effort. Okay? There's something I wanted to say. I don't know if I'll get to it. Okay. Empowered acceptance says, yes, this is hard. Yes, my child has needs, has challenges. Yes, I may not have all the answers, but I'll give you my best. This is hard, but no, I will not limit the identity to a diagnosis. That's what empowered acceptance. So I just an encouragement to all parents. You're not broken, you're on a journey. This journey will stretch you, but it will strengthen you. I always say this analogy, my father-in-law taught us, when you are going through any circumstance, there are 4 stages. Whether you're believing God for healing for your child, someone is believing God for a baby, you're believing God for a job, whatever thing you're believing God for. Whether it's healing, whether it's finance, whether it's your marriage, whatever. Phase 1 or stage 1 is the challenge. Stage 2 is the journey. Stage 3 is the testimony or the answer. Oh, finally you got a job. Oh, finally your child couldn't walk. Your child is now walking. You achieve a milestone. That's stage 3, the testimony. That's what most people stop at. But there's a stage 4. That means the ministry or what is supposed to come out of this process. So, but what makes the difference is how you spend the journey. The journey or the process is what determines how you come out on the other side. So sometimes some people will just waste that whole journey. What you have been crying for 5 years, one day the answer now comes. Okay, so the answer has now come. So now what? It doesn't end there. Who should you have become through that process? Can you help other people walk and navigate that journey and help them navigate in a different way? Has that process taken you? I notice a lot of people who come out with transformational inventions that are even helping children with additional needs or developmental challenges. Quite a number of them are parents who did not settle. Yes, who accepted that their children had problems, but they refused to accept the status quo. The woman that owns Gemini, for example, Gemini is an app for speech. Her son was diagnosed with autism years ago. When he was 2, he couldn't speak, and they said he was going to be confined to a disability home and blah, 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 blah. And she, as and her husband refused to settle, they started putting effort to help their child communicate. That's how that product was produced. And I can say about so many inventions like that. Those are people who walked a journey, who allowed the process to do something in them, who did not settle in the diagnosis, who did not just accept the diagnosis as a label or a title. Some things make me laugh. I don't know. I have a different perspective. When somebody comes and says I'm an autism mom, and I'm like, what does that mean, really? I'm a cerebral palsy mom. What does that mean? Do you say I'm a cancer mom or someone that has a cancer now? Does it say I'm a cancer person? Why do you wear? Because I see it as wearing a label. I know you're trying to say that I'm not limited by this and all that, but most of the time I feel that there's a thin line when sometimes you don't have an answer, or you just, I don't know, you just see some things as part of your child or the process. So that's why it looks easy to just wear the label, or you say there's so many codes. There's no ability in disability, or there's ability in disability. Some of those things, just quote all those things. Sometimes I feel that there's a very thin line between attaching a label. Like I would say, I will never accept that someone calls himself what God does not call me with. I don't know if that makes sense. I can talk about the scriptures a lot. When you go to the Bible, in Mark chapter 7, Mark chapter 9, there were parents, even even in the Bible generally, there were parents who came to Jesus for the healing of their children for certain circumstances. Jesus never said that is how I made them. When the boy with speech impediment was brought to Jesus didn't say, and some people will be known for, but he didn't say that. He addressed the speech impediment, and the boy's tongue was he spoke plainly. So to me, if a parent has the same circumstance, that parent has a local standing, has a right to come to God and say, I want my child to be able to speak. The child, the in Mark chapter 9, with the boy that came with deaf and dumb spirit and had the epilepsy and things like that, and came to Jesus, he didn't say, he didn't use epilepsy to qualify. Say you're an epilepsy father or epilepsy mom. He did not qualify. You didn't use the diagnosis to label them. Even the woman with the issue of blood, we are the ones that called her that. The Bible didn't label her that. But when people are saying the story, just for people to be able to identify who we're talking about, we attach that label to her. But the scripture didn't describe her. Didn't, how do I put it? Didn't label her like that. So sometimes attaching the label as an identity, I don't know. I feel that I think it's wrong. To me, I think it's contradicting. You're trying to keep up alive. You want this to be fixed, but yet you're attaching a label to yourself. There's a very thin line. Even the concept of neurodiversity, yes, I understand where the concept comes from, but you need to be very, very conscious, because this thing is an intentional work. If I'm praying something, what are you really believing for? Even when you are doing therapy, you're not doing therapy onto anything. You're doing therapy because you are believing certain outcomes. So does your saying, does your doing, does your acting, does it align with what you are really believing for? It doesn't mean you have all the answers, but does it align with it, or is it contradictory? So you are on a journey. Let the process rock something in you. Yes, there are moments of overwhelm. Yes, there are moments of doubt. Yes, sometimes doctors will not even have all the answer. But remember to keep hope alive. In conclusion, acceptance isn't the end. It's the start of a more intentional parenting journey. It's not about giving up hope. It's about seeing clearly and taking action. When you accept diagnosis, you have chosen to learn, to advocate, and to help your child thrive. Now, I'll leave you with this scripture. This is one scripture that, and when it comes to autism renewed, this is like my foundational scripture. Jeremiah 31, verse 15 to 17. It says, thus saith the Lord, a voice was heard in Ramah, lamentation and bitter weeping, Rachel weeping for her children, refused to be comforted for her children, for because they were not. But thus saith the Lord, refrain thy voice from weeping and thy eyes from tears, for thy work shall be rewarded, said the Lord, and they shall come again from the land of the enemy. There is hope in thy end, said the Lord. All thy children shall come again to their own border. And so what the scripture is saying that, God sees you out there. God sees your tears. God sees everything you're going through, and he's saying, wipe your tears away, refrain your voice from weeping, your ears from time. All your works, all your labor, all your therapy, all your investment shall be rewarded with positive, speedy outcomes that you are looking for. When he says comes back from the land of the enemy, somebody might say, you now say this, like this is the enemy. No, that thing that is does not, I mean, what do you call it? That situation that is contrary, that they shall be back again to their own border. They shall be back again to the remember I'm in the journey. That deficiency shall be corrected and realigned. That delay, they will be back on track to catch up. That's what he's saying. So there is hope in their end. So in thine end, your children's end, they will return back to their own border. That means that their border of destiny, everything God has said that they're going to fulfill, that diagnosis is not going to lead them on a contrary journey. Remember I said it's a journey. Diagnosis is not destiny. Diagnosis may take you through a different path, but everything that God says that child is going to be, they will return back to that border and fulfill that destiny. In Jesus' name, thank you. So, thank you, ma'am. I don't know how many.
Oh,
I don't know what I did.
thank you very much, Coach Omolola. You are wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So grateful for this section. Let me see your emoji if you have been blessed tonight. If you have been blessed tonight, can we just give it? Just begin to let your emojis fly. Yeah, I'll leave the floor for our moderator now. Yeah, send me over to
Dr.
you.
Molola.
Thank
you
you.
are amazing.
Thank you, ma'am.
You are not just an ordinary doctor. You are, yeah, and that's the truth. You are a voice. You
Thank
are a
you.
voice for so many things, but I'm going to say you are a voice for God in this our present generation to speak to the minds of those who are parenting children with additional needs. It's a calling, and it's
Mm,
not everybody that is going to carry Bible and go to the podium and be preaching. But um, our audience can testify. If this is not preaching, then I don't know what it is. Exactly. Yeah, because for us as Christians, there's no
mm,
division between our calling and our individual lives and our jobs. Everything
mm,
has been intertwined. So
mm.
thank you
mm.
very much for bringing Jesus to autism awareness and into our lives. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Um, I don't know where to start from.
Okay.
I've been enlightened, I've been blessed. Um, I've learned so much today about autism. Everything you said just shows me that you are an expert in autism and nothing more. Yeah, it shows that because I also have a child, he's 15 years old, and he's been diagnosed with autism. And when people see him, they say, "Oh, there's nothing wrong with this boy." I say, "Yes, absolutely, there's nothing wrong with him. It is me that know. I know where the shoe pinch is." So, thank you for the encouragement, for the empowerment, from awareness to accepting the diagnosis, and to the empowerment. What acceptance is and what it is not. Thank you so much. Acceptance does not mean you're going to sit down and start crying. Oh God, why me? Why have you given me this burden? If not you, who else? Is it your neighbor? Yeah, is it your neighbor or your sister that God should give? If God is not going to put us in a river, if He doesn't know that we have the capacity to swim. So it is that capacity that we need to bring out. And I know that tonight we've learned a lot and we've been equipped with so much that our lives are transformed for the best. That's all I can say. That is all I can say. Accepting your child's diagnosis does not mean you go and sit down and be telling everybody that cares to listen that, oh, this is the problem you're having. No, it is a response to your child's diagnosis. And Dr. Malola said something that really resonates with me. He said, for your child to become something, more often than not, you are to become that thing too. If you want your child to swim, you need to learn how to swim. Yeah, if you want your child to think positively and have confidence, maybe you also need to work on that area of your life. So that's a powerful way to conclude this evening. So become an advocate for your child. It is not all therapies that are fit or good for your child. Yes, they are good in their own way. They are good for other people. They may not be the right fit for your own child. It is not all doctors that are good for your child. It is not all teachers that are good for your child. There was a time a particular school rejected my son. We were preparing to resume a new session. We've bought uniforms, we've bought shoes, we've bought everything. We've even paid for books and all of that. And all of a sudden, they just say, "Oh, Mrs. Shosonya, you need to come for a meeting." And I was there. And they said, "Oh, we are sorry. We will not be able to, your child will not be able to resume with us because we don't know what else to do for him. We can't help him." Oh, that day I wept. I wept. And uh, we didn't stop at weeping. Myself and my husband, we started equipping ourselves. Yeah, we started equipping ourselves on how to become so that our son can also become. And today is still a journey, a very long journey, but we are not where we used to be. So I can resonate with everything that Dr. Mulolai said. I'm just, in fact, it's a mind-blowing session. Thank you and God bless you. So I've not seen any question as well.
Yes,
Catherine,
yes.
is there any other
Yeah,
is
yeah.
any question for
No,
Dr. Molola, please?
no, there's no question. It's just like a
She's a
deliverance
hot cake,
section.
oh. If you need to, if you want to call him again, you are going to pay in pounds and dollars. So please, now that we have her, let's ask our questions.
Oh, I can see one question here,
Yeah,
Simi,
from
from
Ayoyemi.
yes.
Yeah. Doctor, if you are
Okay,
an
you can read.
onlooker or
Yeah.
a yeah, if you are an onlooker or a bystander, how can you communicate with a parent that all may not be well with their child? Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Okay. Sometimes you may see a child, even sometimes it happens in schools, and teachers are concerned about the child and they want to communicate with the parent. So also it depends on your relationship with the parent. So you can't just, I don't know, how do I mean, you can't just approach, I mean, your relationship will determine the approach. But I think the first thing first is also build a relationship with that parent. You don't just approach someone that you don't know. Sometimes she may already be thinking something is wrong, you
Mhm.
understand, but maybe fear of what is wrong make people defensive. So even if it's in the park or maybe it's at a place, build rapport and relationship with the child, with the parent. And if you see the child exhibits maybe certain behavior that you think is concerning, what are your expressions? How do you approach it? So the best, one of the ways you can do is that even if you see a child is exhibiting a concerning behavior, don't show expression on your face, because if you are showing expression, sometimes we have judgmental expressions already. Sometimes people judge a parent already without saying anything, no, but your attitude already judges the
Mm-hmm.
parent, so that will already make them build a wall. So sometimes you can just ignore, like you didn't see that the child is acting somehow, and just try to build a relationship with the parent and try to engage them in a conversation, just like a neutral conversation. Don't ask things like, "Are your child okay?" or "How old is the child? Can he do this?" And that. I mean, those are parents already knows where you're trying to get to. You can just ask neutral questions. You can build a neutral relationship. You can comment on something the child is wearing. I love his shoes. You understand that kind of thing. I love his shirt, that kind of thing. What school does he attend? My child also attends this. Build a relationship, then that leads to a conversation. So, because most of the time people think that maybe the parent doesn't know. Most of the parent knows that but they're in that place of they're still trying to either deal with how they want to go about it most times. Do you understand? Maybe someone has mentioned something, they're still trying to say, okay, do I really want to go to the doctor? Do I really want to pick this assessment? So most of the time, when it becomes very obvious, most of the time parents already know. So you just have to be empathic. You have to, and the truth is that it's not an emergency also. So sometimes if it's someone that you are going to see over time, you don't need to say anything with the first few interactions. So for example, you belong to the same church group or in the same school. You don't need that. If I don't say anything today, something will happen. It's not really an emergency. The child has been going through the challenge. So build a relationship with the mom and get to strike a conversation that can spark up something. Then you can now chip in something with knowledge to shed light on that thing, depending on what she says. Or if you have a resource, but don't just go and hand over a resource to someone that you don't have a relationship with. Do you understand what I'm saying? So if you build a relationship, she likes to read books, you can give her parenting books or whatever, and chip in that resource if you have one. What I'm saying is that most of the time people feel the need to quickly say something. But most of the time it's not really an emergency that you really need to say something. I think you need to build rapport and look for the opportunity to bring it up. Or sometimes when you build rapport with someone, she can express an overwhelm. Oh, I'm so tired. This child is just so active. I don't even know what to do. They can make passive statements like that. That becomes your ticket to now start a conversation. Do you understand what I'm saying? And even if you're starting a conversation, I don't feel the first conversation should be, have you gone to see the doctor? Have you seen a therapist? That should not be the conversation. First of all, even strike a conversation on, okay, what are the things that she's doing, maybe at home to try. If, for example, she says it's so active, it's not, just try to start a conversation. Oh, what I think she's doing. Comment her, oh, you're doing very well. Oh, I know that you're very concerned about your child. Da, 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 da. If you're okay, she will not say, I've done this and done that. Okay, have you explored this? So I feel it's a conversation thing. It's something that will build up. Don't just jump because you want to help, because it may not be received the right way. And there's no point if a parent is not ready at that point to embrace those things. Whatever you're going to say is not going to really profit them. But no matter how you're leading, lead with love, lead with empathy, and lead with conversations that can profit her, not necessary conversations that will be judgmental or make her feel like she's not doing well. Because most times parents are already overwhelmed. They're already second guessing themselves. So sometimes they don't need
Oops.
Yeah,
Catherine? Yeah.
no, it's
Go ahead.
yeah, it's just the network. Yeah, just like um Dr. Molola was saying, you don't need to express or be judgmental. You understand? So because
Oh, okay. Both of them are not here. They will join shortly. So if you don't be pressured into okay, I want to help, because your help may not be taken well. The parents already know what's going on. Number one. Number two, as Dr. Molola said, the situation is not an emergency. So it is not, if you don't say something, something will happen, nothing will happen. The child has been there all this while with that condition. So whatever you do or do not do now will not make any difference. Do you get? Because I see a lot of people that don't know what the parent is going through. We now say, oh, why is your child behaving like this? Oh, why is he doing this? Why is he doing that? Don't feel pressured into jumping into help. You want to help. No, it's not going to all go well. Dr. Malola is back. Thank you for coming
Yes, I
back.
think that's some other questions there.
Yeah, we've got another question from Bethel. Let me go through it.
Paralyzing
Where
it.
is it?
Okay.
Bethel
She said,
said, okay,
at what point should they take a child to
is
assessment?
the question of assessment. At
Yeah, I've
what
seen it.
point can a parent realize they need to take their child for assessment?
yeah.
Unfortunately, different countries would have different policies around that. My own policy is as soon as you notice something, even if it's 3 months. But the unfortunate thing is that in most places they have an age where they do assessment. Some countries
Yeah.
might even some countries even 3 years, 4 years, and I think the earliest I know is like 2 months. I'm sorry, 2 years, and I think that that's a downside. So that's why
Hmm.
when I work with parents, because what happens, that's a gap in the mainstream system. And like I
Mm-hmm.
told you, science is progressive, so there are a lot of things that are done in the mainstream that are not the best, but it takes mainstream system time to catch up with new
Mm-hmm.
strategies and methodologies.
Strategies. Yeah.
Because what happens is that if you notice a delay at 3 months, at 6 months, intervention should start. But what intervention looks like at different ages will be different. So if I'm talking
True.
about intervention, someone will say, "Oh, the intervention for 6 months." Yes, but what that looks like, sometimes it can even begin getting parents to begin to rearrange the home environment. The home environment may not be a functional environment. That's why you're seeing some delay. Some children are not, they don't play, they don't move. They're doing a lot of screen, they're not engaging the child. So that may be what is contributing to the child's delay in acquiring certain milestones. Even though
True.
there was delay, but it's those things are enhancing. So unfortunately, most times if you take a
Hmm.
child to a mainstream doctor 6 months, they will say come back in 6 months. And I think that is a disservice because 6 months is a long time. The thing with developmental delay is a child that is not potty trained at 10 was not didn't get to 10 years old before not being potty trained. He was not potty trained at 4. He was not participated at 3, at 5, and nothing was done. So when there is a delay, what happens is that most times without the delay will not go away. But the older the child gets, the delay becomes, or the challenge becomes more obvious. So what most times mainstream doctors are waiting for, they're actually waiting for the obvious. Because at that 3 months, I think that it's not really there. The child doesn't even really look it. Why they are saying that is because the child doesn't need as much skills at that age. So you now be thinking, is it there? It's not there. It's not so clear to them because the skills that the child requires is still very little. But as the child grows older, you expect more skills. When you are now not seeing it, it becomes more obvious. Then I say, oh, but meanwhile, that oh you're saying at 4 years was there at 2 years, but not as
Yes,
apparent. And I
that's
feel that that
true.
is 2 years that is lost. And I think that is a disservice because what you need to catch up a 2 year old and what you need to catch up a 4 year old, they are not the same. So most times, unfortunately, mainstream would always wait. I mean, most countries have their policy. So if you take a child below their policy because they don't understand this concept that I'm talking to you about. Because unfortunately, not most times our mainstream curriculum as doctors does not teach these things, does not they teaches us to diagnose, yeah, but does not teach us
Mm,
the concept of therapy, does not teach us how to help a child, unfortunately.
yes, that's
And
true.
what doctors don't realize is that therapy and treatment are not the same. We are trained to treat. We are not trained with the concept of therapy. Therapy is the concept of practice. Therapy is the concept of consistency. So the later you start, the more you have lost time. The earlier you start, even though it may still take time, but you are giving the child more opportunities early enough. So what I would always say most
Mm,
times is that once you notice delay, is when ideally intervention to start. Also, we always have this thing that when the child is also young, depending on who is assessing, because most of the diagnostic frameworks are boxed into a system. So they'll say they're questionnaire based most times. Even if they tell the child to do things,
yes,
they tick
that's true.
boxes. So when they tick the child gets 5 out of 6, then they say they are that. If the child gets 2 out of 6, they will say the child doesn't
Mm,
have the diagnosis. But the question is, even if
yes,
a child scores 2 out of 6, he doesn't have a diagnosis, but the child is still struggling. So I say that
mm,
that's why I tell you that the diagnosis is not the ultimate because a child may not
ultimate.
have
Yes,
diagnosis, but the child is struggling. So are you going to leave a child struggling? So I believe that when there is a gap or a challenge, intervention should be in place. But unfortunately, insurance companies will not give funding without a diagnosis. It's like, give me the show me the diagnosis, then I give you funding. So, but that's why parents have to step up and take responsibility. I talked about getting knowledge and learning. What are things you can begin to do for your 6 month old if you are noticing delay in certain areas? How can you begin to um put interventions in place before sometimes even intervention wait list can we be on the wait list for 2 years in some countries that is
mm,
2 years
yes,
wasted
thank
and
you.
that is time lost. So it's about
Yes,
as a parent begin to understand you know what are the things I can begin to do. If my child is having language delay, what are the things I can begin to do as a form of intervention? If my child is having certain things, and
intervention.
also sometimes you may need to step out of the box and pay out of pocket rather than wait for
Mm,
because if you wait for insurance companies
true.
without assessment they won't fund it, without a diagnosis they're not going to fund you. So and that is, but if you
Yes,
understand
that's
that I can make certain sacrifices to do certain things if it's in your power to do so, you begin to do that
mm,
because the longer a child waits, that is time that is being wasted and the gap will not close up, the gap will just widen as the
mm.
child grows. So I don't know whether that's not a straight
Yeah,
answer, but
yeah, yeah, yeah.
unfortunately
That just the way thing. Yeah, that just it. Different countries with different way they handle diagnosis and early intervention is just the best. We have to go outside the box. That's just it to actually know what to do at a particular point in time. Another question here, and I believe this should be the last question, Dr. Molola. The
Yeah.
question here is how do I handle it when my child finds negative behavior interesting, knowing that it is not okay to isolate the child? Did you
how do
get
I
that?
handle when my child finds negative behavior interesting? Don't say the child finds it interesting. The child may not understand. You are assuming, I think. So,
Hmm.
especially if it's an older child. What sometimes parents don't realize is that developmental age and chronological age are not the same. So, when you see a 10-year-old acting a certain way and maybe the child is laughing or something, you think the child is finding it funny. But a 10-year-old may be developmentally 2 years old or 3 years old. So the concept I mean, there's so it child may not understand really, so to speak. So also when you talk about negative behavior, I want you to define, because sometimes what parents call negative behavior,
Mm.
there are behaviors that maybe make you uncomfortable or they just look unacceptable, but there's really nothing. Just like when some children are steaming, some parents don't like it because sometimes maybe it looks embarrassing, maybe it looks somehow. But I tell them that it's self-soothing. So is it disturbing you? So I want you to name the negative behavior. Is it self-harming? 'Cause what do you look for in a behavior? If it doesn't harm anybody and it doesn't harm the child, it may look funny, it may look embarrassing, so to, because some parents feel embarrassed, whatever. If it's not hurting anyone and it's not hurting himself, then it's not a negative behavior.
Ah.
Also, when you think about, what I'm trying to share perspective. I'm not saying that you now leave the child there. No, you first of all have to understand, is it a concept thing? Because developmentally, you may be looking at the age, but developmentally, the child's understanding may not be at par with the age. So the child may be acting that way because developmentally, they are how do I put it, that their conceptual understanding is not there yet. Okay. So also, how can you also do it? One thing you do with behavior also is that you study behavior. Every behavior is a communication. So what is the child trying to communicate? Okay. Also, in terms of behavior, there's what we call ABC of behavior: antecedent, behavior, and consequence. So every time you have a behavior, study the behavior. Is there a pattern around it? What is the antecedent? I mean, what are the events before? What leads to the behavior? What that helps you to do is that in this case, you can redirect the behavior. So that I'm saying that you need to be specific what you mean by the negative behavior. Okay. Sometimes parents, like I had a client who was saying the son always tears paper and nylon, and I just, and like, okay, is it disturbing you if he's tearing paper? How is that a problem? And it just looks somehow. That doesn't mean it's a negative behavior. The child is trying to express creativity. How can you redirect and reshape it? Okay, get him use newspaper, bring things he can color with, get him to try to use that energy to create something. So with
Mm.
behavior, you either modify or you redirect. So if you understand the antecedent, what leads to that behavior, you can modify the antecedent event such that you can now modify the behavior or you redirect the behavior. So you need to know the intention of that behavior. If the child is just trying to have fun, some children don't know how to play. You know that there's something like that. Some children don't know how to play appropriately. So they will be playing in an inappropriate way. They will take a toy in an inappropriate. You now have to teach them, show them how to play. So that's why we're talking about getting as a parent. You need to get down with the child and teach the child, model appropriate play and teach the child how to play. If the child is playing with things, paper and things like that are drawing, get appropriate paper they can play with. They can do paper collage, paper mache, mess. Maybe they just like messy because some children to is sensory. Some of those play that they are playing with things, it's just a sensory. They have sensory seeking behavior. So get things like Play-Doh, get them to play outside in sand, get them to play with water to feel that sensory need. So when you say negative behavior, you have to qualify it. What is the goal of that behavior? So can you help the child achieve that same goal in an appropriate way? So either you
Yeah.
redirect or you prompt and modify the
All
behavior.
right.
I hope that helps. That sounds
Yeah.
complex, but I hope it helps. If a child
Yeah.
improves and achieves the goal set after testing, how do you handle new symptoms? Do you retest? And that's why usually when you have an assessment, and that's why you're working with a team. Even most times when you go, I mean, when a child goes to therapy after assessment, that's why they always have goals. So they you can anticipate so when you say new symptoms, there are two things. Let me say it that way. There are symptoms that may have been there but were not picked because you know the assessment is not objective. Sometimes it's subjective. Even when the assessment is an observation one, there's some assessment are observation. They will sit the child down, try to get the child to do certain things to see the child's ability. That's very subjective. Sometimes the child may be tired, the child may not be interested in what you're doing, the child may not even like the therapist assessing, so they may not show certain things. Also, the therapist may not interpret certain things well. Also depends on their skill. So sometimes some behavior that you are saying you are seeing later, not necessarily that are new. It can be because what I explained, a child grows older. You now see the deficiency. If you assess a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old now, reading and writing may not be part of the assessment because they're like a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old may not really be reading. It may not be a problem. So in the assessment, that may not be there. But by the time the child gets to 6 years old, they see that the child cannot read. That doesn't mean that the child couldn't read at 6. At 2, the child couldn't read, but because that skill was not required in the process of testing, there's no way they would have been able to objectively test. So with assessment, there's always modification. There's always something called, you can do you can do an assessment review. So what you do is that you write whoever your insurance, whatever, you tell them, yeah, you want to do a reassessment. Sometimes the therapists that are working with the child can also do a reassessment. Ideally, an assessment should be done a review is done every year, but you can do a reassessment. Even when you do change of circumstances, maybe you relocate to a new environment, and or you want to access more therapies that you were not accessing before. Sometimes they ask for a reassessment to reassess the child where you're coming from, to assess whether there additional supports that are required. So you can ask for a reassessment. There's something like that. So you can talk to the same therapist that did the assessment and say you want a reassessment based on this and that. Or you can even go to a new person and say, okay, we have done this before, but you would like a reassessment. But it's always easier with the same therapist. Maybe if you're happy with the person, you can ask for a reassessment, because sometimes some things can be missed. Also, sometimes some things, the child was younger, they didn't exhibit those behavior, but now they're now exhibiting it. So there can always be a reassessment. They've achieved certain goals. They were not speaking before, now they're speaking, so they don't really need that therapy anymore. You can reassess, so they will now redo the plan. So that's why, it's a continuous thing. You know that you do test once and that's it, and that's the same plan the child will be using for life. No, there's always reassessment. They will have new goals, new targets, and do it over and over again. How do you handle
Yes, so this
non-stop
will be the last one. I think
elopement in
this
the
will be the
classroom?
last question. Yeah,
Okay,
this will be the
elopement in
last
the
question.
classroom.
So
There, so you also that one you also have to
she said
qualify.
like
You know, some
throwing and hitting.
eh?
She said like throwing and hitting
That's what
in
we
the
have to find out. Why is
classroom.
the child throwing and hitting? Children throw and hit for different reasons. Like I said, every behavior is a communication. Sometimes that can be overwhelmed. Sometimes can be sensory. A lot of children have sensory issues. The environment is too stimulating. Things are like light, like the classroom we are talking about now. Not all schools have an appropriate classroom for some children. Some children, you see all these lights, all these colors, is overstimulating for them. So some children will be restless, will be throwing, because that is their way of communicating to you that I'm not comfortable. I'm sure the child they are talking about now may not really be verbal, or maybe even if they are verbal, they are not fully conversational, or they are not really, they can't really express themselves. So when a child is crying, hitting, he's communicating discomfort. That behavior is a communication. See, have it at the back of your mind that every behavior is a communication. So the question is, what is my child trying to communicate to me? So when he's throwing and hitting, some children may be having headache. That's why sometimes you see some children who their head bang or throw themselves on the floor. They're having headache. That's why. Some children have constipation. Some children, there's a sensory overwhelm, either from noise. Some environments are too noisy. Some environments are too busy. Some school classroom environment especially. Ideally, some children don't do well in a crowded classroom. You have classroom of 10 children, 20 children. It may be too overwhelming. Some classrooms are too busy. There's color everywhere. There's painting on the wall. There's something flashing. There's something making noise. It is overstimulating for the child. So that could be why. So that's what we're talking about when we're talking about inclusion. The child needs. So the child have sensory issues. I don't know whether you know that, because not all professionals even know how to assess for sensory issues, and not all professionals assess that, and that's a big deal, because if a child has sensory issues, they would struggle to sit down in a class to learn, because you just imagine yourself in a stadium. You know how stadium is, or you go to a concert, how everything is, how the overwhelming sound. For some children, a normal classroom, a normal school, crowded, feels like that. So imagine your child in that setting. How do you think it's going to be? It's not going to be settled down. It's going to be everywhere. And unfortunately, he can't communicate. So that's why they need a knowledge to assess the classroom. Most schools have to create a sense. Some places even have a sensory room. Also, depending on the schedule they run, some children, the schedule they run in school is too much. They stay for 2 hours, 3 hours, no breaks, no play. It's too much. So the child may need constant breaks. Go outside to play, run around. Also, the school that he is there space? Do they run around? Do they have swings? Can they play in sand? Can they play? Can he let out the energy? So some schools you have to have maybe a mini trampoline in the class. You have to have fidgeting toys. Some children cannot even sit in normal chairs. They have to have there's some fidgety chairs or even what do you call it, exercise balls or things like that. So if a child is throwing and hitting, the child is communicating something. He can be saying, "I'm tired. I want to sleep." I can be saying that I'm overwhelmed. It can be that I'm uncomfortable. So we need to know why. Is the environment overstimulating or is the child overwhelmed? So that's how
Mm.
you are able to help the child interpret the behavior correctly and modify the behavior or redirect the behavior or change what is precipitating or causing the behavior. I hope that can help. Okay, I hope that helped some. I hope that helped you, ma. So with elopement, the same thing. Some children also elope in classroom. He's telling you that he's not comfortable. He may want to play outside. He may want a sensory break. So that's why some other things that if you teach your child how to play instruments, they can use it to relax. Understand that they need sensory breaks. Sometimes they even need sensory
Doctor,
toys. Some children have a special toy they take to school and they hold it throughout classroom because it helps them to regulate. So you need to know that your child, how does he regulate? You need to know. So you need to accommodate that. He may need more breaks. Maybe I have to tell the teachers after every 2 hours. So that's why you need to work with a school that has knowledge because all this I'm saying now are supposed to be part of his IEP if he has one, individualized educational plan. IEP is not just academics. IEP is everything that makes the child in a wholesome way comfortable. So adding sensory breaks, excluding him from some activity. If he wants to sleep in school sometimes, you should be able to take a nap. It doesn't matter. There's no rule that says, okay, you're in primary four now, you can't nap in school. If a child has additional needs and he's going to struggle, he can't stay for long hours. Also, how many hours are you keeping him in school for? It may be too long. He may not have enough breaks. The environment may not be conducive. So it's all part of. So don't just try to fix the child. You're not just trying to fix. It should not hit again. It doesn't work that way. Everything
mm.
has to be child led. You have to do what
Wow.
works for the child, not what works for you or what works for the school. The school has to be able to accommodate. That's what inclusion is. You are aware of their challenges, their limitations, then you create an environment that helps them to be comfortable, helps them to be able to thrive in that environment. So also, is the child in the right school? So not all school, a good school may not be a right school for your child. So there's a lot of to this conversation. I know you may say, oh, that's where I live, that's the only school, but is it working for your child really? So these are the conversations. I hope that helped.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Dr. Mondola. I'm so excited. And I believe we've been so blessed. Yes, we've been blessed tonight. As many people that have come here have been receiving feedback like, oh, wow, this is a deliverance section. I just want to thank you very much. If you are hearing my voice tonight, you can follow Dr. Mondola on Instagram. She's on Instagram. Follow her on Instagram as Renewed Autism, right?
Autism renewed.
Yes. Autism Renewed, yes. That is
Yeah.
her handle on Instagram. Yes, you can follow her on Facebook. You will see her as Lola Okewo. Yes, that is her Facebook handle. Please, if you need anything concerning your child, she's into it big time. She's an expert. Anything concerning special needs, you can reach her. See, this is just like a giveaway for you. See, this Dr. Mola is not a small person that you just come and say, oh, you want to see. You will pay money. So this is just like a giveaway for you. Yes, it is. Thank you very much. I'm so grateful. I would just want to leave this with us as parents of special needs children. Let's just think about this. Just ask yourself this question. Do you love your child because of what they do or because of who they are? Think about that. Now, acceptance can be conditional and or unconditional. When you talk about unconditional, you're talking about the love or the acceptance that is based on who your child is. That is unconditional. Why conditional talks about what your child does. We as special needs parents, sometimes we just want our children to be different. We compare our children, the milestones our children are achieving with other children. Likewise, other parents out there. You see some parents, they want to change their child's skin color because they don't believe in that child. Your child's condition might be different. Every child is unique on its own. I just want us to know that we need to accept our children unconditionally. And it's only through that genuine acceptance that we begin to see clearly on how to parent our children. And from there, you see your children thrive. I'll use myself as an example. When I had the diagnosis of my daughter, I was actually broken. Imagine someone expecting twins at the end of the day. You hear that kind of diagnosis, everybody's waiting. I used to be in that place of, oh, why me? But I took it upon myself and said, no, I don't want to live in that denial anymore. I don't want to live in fear. I begin to seek for knowledge, right knowledge. And you see, when Dr. Omolola was teaching, she talked about early intervention because sometimes that gap, it's there. You see children that are supposed to walk at the age of 4, you see them even at the age of 10, they can't walk, their hands are stiff and all that. Because some of us did not start early, but there's good news. Start where you are and begin to love your child unconditionally. That is what I will leave with you today. Think about it. Do you love your child because of what they do or because of who they are? I just want to thank everyone. If you're looking for a space to join, a place where you can actually get knowledge, we have our Place of Hope Academy where parents come into the academy. We put them through, we start with them transforming their mind, begin to see their children in a different form. It's a nice place for you to join. After this section is a recorded section. I'll post it in different platform and everyone will have a look at it. And I pray that what we actually desire concerning our children, God Himself will bring it to pass in our lives. Thank you very much. Thank you for joining me. Thank you, Temi. I'm so honored. I can see everybody here. My A, I can see you. I can see you. Building Precious. Yes. Better. Thank you very much. Wholesome Family. Yes. Wholesome Family Solution. Thank you for joining me. I'm so happy. I just want to say this, that as many people that need to reach Dr. Milola, if you want a number, just give me a DM. I'll give you and you can reach her. Yes, it's direct contact. We don't hold numbers, right? Yeah, we don't hold numbers. Thank you very much. And with this, I'll call it
Good night.
a good
Thanks,
night from
everyone. Thanks
here.
once again.
Sound sleep, everyone. Good to see you here and
Thank you.
have a
Bye,
sound
everyone.
sleep. Yeah, bye everyone.
Bye.
See you. Bye.